Hi guys, and welcome to a match reaction from She Knows Ball, aka Miss Kayamara, aka the Arsenal's princess and the Arsenal's wine girl. But wow. What can I actually say? Back like we never left. What a performance from Arsenal. Arsenal 3, Coventry nil. The champions of the championship versus the champions in the Premier League. Well, the Premier League champions, should I say. And it's just like, what a performance. What a way to start the league. Arsenal fans smiling, everyone is happy. And it was a really good performance from the boys. It was good that we had our first game at the Emirates. I'm not going to lie. The fans being behind the boys and whatnot definitely contributed to the atmosphere and everything. But it's like, oh, goodness. Christos Zolis. I literally just made a post about this on Instagram, just bigging him up. And a lot of people were saying, oh, who is Zolis? We don't even know him. Where is he? What type of league is he playing in? And it's just like, calm down. I watched a few of his like videos that he had of like, him playing ball. And I even said it in my live stream earlier. I said, you don't need to really, of course you do sometimes need to see if someone can do it in the Premier League, but sometimes you can literally just watch someone play football and know that they are good. It's literally as simple as that. We don't need to overcomplicate the sport. It's a beautiful sport. And so it's like, just watch someone play football and you can already tell if they are a good footballer or not. And as soon as I saw those videos of Crystal Solis, I said, this guy is good. This guy is a real winger. But cool, compilations and stuff and whatnot, not really the real thing. Let's see how he does in preseason. Tuned in to see him in the preseason now. And again, it was the same thing. I looked at him and I was like, you are a baller. You honestly are. And then he proved it in the Community Shield. It got a goal. I'm like, I can't wait to see him in the Premier League. And he did not disappoint. Wow. Crystal Solis. I even told people to transfer him in on fantasy. That's how much I was backing him. And he didn't disappoint at all. And so it's nice to see him, up and running and, telling the world, you're going to remember my name. Arsenal fans were saying, Zolis who? Zolis who? But now he's fully made his mark. And he is gonna, make you lot remember his name. And yeah, hopefully, I'm really, wishing him a really good season. So it's nice to see that he is off the well, not off the mark because he didn't score, but up and running, up and firing, I would say. Um, and by the way, can we also talk about the chemistry between Zolis and Calafiori? Wow, that left-hand side was suddenly rejuvenized. It was like, whoa, where have you been all my life? Like Calafiori, that assist was beautiful. But if we're going to talk about defenders, we're going to have to talk about Ben White. I am so sorry. Ben White, what a lovely performance from him. What a lovely assist. He looked like the old Ben White. A lot of the players in this Arsenal team and during this game looks like the old Arsenal. Like we literally look like 2022, 2023 Arsenal, which is a shame because just add Martinelli. He probably would end up looking like the 2022, 23 Arsenal. But we're going to come on to Martinelli in a little minute. But it's like everyone just looks like their former self. Odegaard looked like his former self. Ben White looked like his former self. Saka looked like his former self. Kai Havertz opening the score. Who other than Kai Havertz? I already told you, look, a lot of Arsenal fans are really unhappy with Kai Havertz and Gyökeres, and I just don't seem to understand why. Well, to be fair, I do get it a little bit in the sense where you want that attacking star player where it's like, like a Haaland, like they're missing that kind of edge that's really gonna take Arsenal to glory when it comes to the Champions League. But you can't knock it. Like he scores when it's needed, and it's just like you've done your job. What more can I say? But yeah, 3-0, a really nice way to, open the new season of the Premier League. Really, really proud of the boys, and it was a really good performance. And so, yeah, but of course, there is a little bit of a downside, Ian Wright was on the commentary for Sky Sports, and I was even shouting him out during my live stream, and I was saying, I'm really happy to see Ian Wright join the Sky Sports team and become part of the, post-match analysis, pre-match analysis, get him on the commentary and whatnot, because I've been missing a little bit of Righty. He's not on Match of the Day anymore. And then it took me by surprise when he actually, he came out and said that he knows. So meaning and assuming that he's spoken to Martinelli's camp, right? He's been in direct contact with them, and he knows for sure that Arsenal are actually keeping Martinelli in the dark, and they actually haven't really told him what's going on with his future. And he basically just doesn't know what's going on at the moment. Kept in the dark. And that kind of took me by surprise. Prior to the game, it was made known that Martinelli wasn't part of the squad, and a lot of Arsenal fans were disgruntled online, particularly on Twitter, saying they don't appreciate the way Arsenal Football Club are freezing him out. And I was kind of on the opposite side of the fence. I thought his time, to be fair, I wanted Martinelli to be sold for a few seasons ago. I thought his time was up at Arsenal was a long time ago. I don't think he was up to the level of Arsenal Football Club. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy. I get the whole nostalgia stuff, the sentiment and things like that. He's been with us since he was a young adult, and so pretty much Arsenal is all he knows. But at the same time, I do understand that football is business, and sometimes if you're just not good enough, there's no other route for you at the club. It's gonna have to come to an end at some point if you don't improve. But to hear Ian Wright, come out and say that Arsenal aren't really letting him know what's going on, it is a little bit concerning. I didn't really think Arsenal would kind of, conduct themselves that way. But again, as I said, football at the end of the day, it's a business. It's a very dog eat dog world. Players come and go kind of thing. But I was shocked. I think I would say that I hope that there's not truth to that. But then if Ian Wright is literally saying it on Sky Sports that he knows, then I think it's safe to, take that at face value. And so I think, Arsenal should definitely change their approach in that. But let's see how this kind of all unravels. I don't really want there to be any kind of drama. If anything, if we aren't getting another left winger, then see, I wouldn't, see the sentiment in me wants to say, Martinelli, stay, please. But it's like, he's not that good enough. If we're being real, if we're gonna keep it a buck. But then again, if Arsenal aren't actually getting a left winger, then you might as well just put him on the bench, if in all honesty. But as I said, I was also thinking, as I said on the live stream, if you were, part of that, and you joined, you would know that I said that maybe Eze is going to be used on the left instead if we don't actually get another left winger. And then lo and behold, Zolis comes off and then Eze comes on. So maybe that kind of shows Arteta's intent as to who he wants to be playing on that left-hand side. And again, I'm not mad at it in terms of Eze starting on the left, just because I think he's bright enough to know that you don't actually have to isolate yourself and stay on the left forever. Like, it's football. If you've played football before, you know that you can move along the pitch. Like, it's a really big field, guys. He can, come in and out and weave in between the left wing and midfield. But of course, we all know that Eze's best position is in the middle. But what we're saying is, if it needs be that Zolis is out, or for instance, as we saw today, played 60, 70 minutes, Zolis comes off and Eze comes on. Because that way, at least Eze gets minutes, because you don't want him just sitting on the bench forever and ever, and then randomly, I don't know, let's say we get to a Champions League quarterfinal or a FA Cup semi-final, and you just want Eze to come off the bench suddenly after not playing 10 games and then make a difference. It's like, please give the guy a break. He's probably rusty. But yeah, overall, it was a very, very good performance. Loved the performance from Mascara as well. I think he's got a lot of stick recently. Because, we've signed another centre back and people are saying, Konsa will replace him and stuff like that. And I've stuck by Mascara and I've said no. Like, I don't think Konsa should just be replacing him straight away. Even the way Ben White played today, it's like he was basically saying, hold on, Konsa, You're not snatching none of our chains here. You're new here. You are new here. And so you've actually got to work for our spots. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel it. I feel like that's what the boys were low-key doing. But yeah, I feel like Arsenal fans are all smiles right now. 3-0 to Arsenal. A lovely, lovely game. A nice way to kick off the weekend. And now it's like, yeah, we can just sit back and watch the ops. Let's see what they do over the weekend, eh? I know that Chelsea Fulham game is going to be good too. So it's like, but yeah. Martin Odegaard, I also want to, shout out Martin Odegaard. I have been very, very tough on Odegaard in the last few reasons. I don't think he's been up to par. I've wanted him to be sold. I was very, very frustrated last season, not only with the injuries, because, fair enough, a player can get injured. That's not the end of the world. But I think more so with the attitude and all the rumors and the speculations that was, being released. We wasn't really sure if he was actually injured or whether he had fallen out with Arteta, things like that. Or, you didn't know whether it was going to be Eze or Odegaard and, the tension and who's going to start, who's this. You didn't know whether he was going to be captain or not. Or when he was captain, it's like it was a thing if Odegaard had a stinker of a performance, which he did a lot of the times last season. It's like now it's a thing where, oh my God, are you going to sub your captain off? Like, it was just a whole palaver and unnecessary drama, I feel, attached to the club and attached to some of the games last season. But my word, the performance in the Community Shield, chef's kiss. And now he's come again today in the opening fixture of the season and he's completely bossed the midfield again and gotten on the score sheet. And you just have to say credit when, you just have to give credit when credit is due. Hats off to Martin Odegaard. I hope that he can be consistent and this is not just, a little one-off type of thing, because Odegaard does have a little bit of a reputation for not really turning up in big games. I'm not gonna lie, that is a thing. Or not really, when it comes to the nitty-gritty, the real tight end and the real part of the season, the business end of the season, he kind of goes missing. So I hope he can, find a little bit of consistency, stay fit, refrain from getting injured, and who knows what, we can see from Martin Odegaard in that sense. But yeah, don't really have too much complaints. Clean sheet on the board. Arsenal back to doing Arsenal things, back to winning ways, back to being, showing everybody why we're Premier League champions. Of course, it is Coventry. That goes without saying, but I mean, you can't knock the performance. The way it just looked very effortless. It looked like the guys were just, it was another day in the office, another day clocking in, doing what they do best. And so, yeah. But yeah, in all, cracking performance from the boys. Lovely Friday night. Can't really complain much. I do hope that the Martinelli situation is resolved. But shout out to Nwaneri, who, was on the bench today. So maybe there's something in that as well. It seems, yeah. So let's see if that's even also resolved. It needs to be, window shut soon. So, but yeah, can't complain. Hats off to Mikel Arteta. Hats off to the boys and to the fans for turning up. And yeah, looking forward to the rest of the season. But thank you guys for joining. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on my socials. It's written there in the panel below. Make sure you subscribe. As I said, I need 500 subscribers. Otherwise, I can't buy no more wine. See? It done nearly finished. It's nearly finished. It is nearly finished. So, on to the next games. So who we got next? Villa and then Chelsea. Well, that's going to be very interesting, seeing Konza. Oh yeah, because they even unveiled Konza today. That was really nice to see. But yeah, let's see what the squad's going to be looking like by then. Oh God, the whole Bruno G palaver. We'll discuss that another time. But yeah, on to Aston Villa, a difficult fixture. Emery is obviously going to want to get his lick back. So let's see how that goes. But looking forward to it nonetheless. But thanks, guys, for joining. I am Kai Amara, a.k.a. Mrs. She a.k.a. Arsenal's Princess and the Arsenal Wine Girl. And I am now signing out. But make sure you all have a lovely weekend. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on my socials, particularly Instagram. But bye, guys.